Hi, everybody, good morning. So I think we can get started. People will join as they come in. So today, thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. We have with us Sulbha, who is the founder of Sandbox Academy. And she's done a lot of research on, what are the alternative boards that you can give as an external student. And her own son would be giving an IGCSE paper externally in a couple of years from now, 2024-25. We are very fortunate to have her with us, and she's been extremely gracious to sort of share whatever her learning knowledge is. So I will hand over the mic to her. If you have any questions during this session, please add them to the chat and we'll get that to at the end. We already have about 10 questions that people have asked us. So we'll go through that. And if any other question comes, I can moderate and let her know at the end. So thank you for joining us. Over to you, Sulbha.
Okay, a very good afternoon, everybody. And it's so nice to see so many people joining in. Thank you, Saurabh, for organizing this, because no matter how many such events we do, there are always people who still have, questions. And I'm happy that I can be of some help to you. So I thought that today's session, we will keep it slightly interactive. So the format that I'm looking at is maybe initial sometime I will introduce you all to the different options that are available. And then as Saurabh mentioned, we could towards the end spend a good amount of time in taking up your questions. And if there are any questions that are going to be very specific for your child, then we will address them separately. So yeah, I have a little presentation that I would wish to share with you all. Yeah, I think I can share that. Yes. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So as homeschoolers, this is always a very big dilemma in our mind. That we do not know what is the best approach. And also we enjoy the flexibility of the curriculums. So looking at that, there are a lot of options, in fact, that are available. But from an Indian setup, there is a slight limitation. So if you just look at the broader view of what are the different open schooling options across India. Now, I don't know whether all these people are from Maharashtra or we have some people who have joined from abroad or any other state. So each state typically has an open school wherein they are either concentrating on the NCERT curriculum or they are concentrating on the state board curriculums that are there. Now, a couple of years back, I think around 5 years back or so, I had enrolled my kid for Maharashtra open schooling exam for grade 5, which was the pilot year for Maharashtra open school. And honestly, my experience was terrible. Because the school that they said was registered, I went, I met them. Unfortunately, the school was clueless that they were a center. So then after a couple of months of follow up, I got to know from them that yes, they are a center. So I went again and I asked them that, okay, what are the options for my kid, like what curriculum should I follow for the 5th grade exam? And they said that you can follow the SSC board textbooks that are there. So I was like, okay, but I said my kid doesn't do Hindi. So my kid is very bad with Hindi and Marathi as a language to give the paper. So I said, what about that? So they said, no, that's not an option because you will have to give whatever is there. I said, okay, fair enough. So we got all the books very enthusiastically. We started studying. All of that happened. And then they said the exams would be with the school children, which is typically going to be somewhere in the month of April. So I kept following it up. And, there was no reply. Absolutely. I went to the school 3 times and they said that we have no information about your kid, the documents. We don't have any acknowledgement whether the documents have reached them and so on and so forth. So me personally, I stopped recommending Maharashtra State Board after that. However, 1 year, I think it was during COVID time, that one of our students wanted to do through Maharashtra Open Schooling. And we had contacted a school called Jnana Prabodhini in Pune, which is a very famous school and very old school. And they were very helpful. Unlike the center that I had, they were very, very helpful. And the child also did the exam. And it was all very nice. Experience for them. They got their mark sheet, after which the child went to a regular college. All of that happened. You all have two versions of the story. So maybe I thought that it could be their first year, the pilot year that they were in, is why the confusion happened. However, as of today, Maharashtra Open Schooling is one of the important options that we have. I have put the websites. I will be sharing this entire PPT with Saurabh, and you all can take the links from him, or you can take a screenshot, whatever. So this is the link that you need to go. Now, the eligibility criteria, their examinations, everything happens exactly like NIOS. So NIOS for all these open schools, whether it is BOSE, that is BOSSE, which is now doing a lot of ads, right? It's in Sikkim and all of that. Now that also is coming up, and they all are following the mother open schooling center, that is NIOS. Because NIOS, you'll need to understand, has been established in 1960s, and the idea of establishing NIOS was for people who were actually army people. So people who were working in civil services. So they are very frequently having a transferable job, and sometimes they are posted in regions which do not have schools at all. So their kids should not be deprived of education. So NCRT had come up with this pilot thought in mind that let's try it out, and eventually that became like a big blessing for people like us who are wanting to do things differently. So we get an option. So NIOS typically has the entire system in place. One of their recent talks that I had attended, they also mentioned that now NIOS, when we are looking at, I'll just elaborate a bit more because this is one of the most promising boards that we can actually look at. Now NIOS typically does examination at grade 3, grade 5, grade 8, grade 10 and grade 12. Grade 10 is called as your secondary. Grade 12 is your senior secondary when you go to the website, which is nios.ac.in. Now, when you are looking at the examination, typically only the age is the criteria. So it doesn't matter whether your child was in 5th grade earlier, but if he is age-wise, if he's ready, then NIOS is okay to let him do like a 8th grade exam also, like a OBC level exam as well. And the same holds true even for your 10th and 12th. So suppose if a child is 14 and was in grade 8, typically in a school, when you're 14, you're in grade 8, right? And by the time you're giving your 10th standard, you're 16. So if your child was in 8th, but if for any reason you want to expedite his journey and want to do like a 10th grade at your 14, then NIS is okay with that. The only criteria is at the time of application, the child should be 14 complete. That is the most important prerequisite that they have. Now, if you do not have a leaving certificate, now many parents ask me this question that what if I don't have a leaving certificate? So that's fine. They don't ask for a leaving certificate. They only need your Aadhaar card. Okay, they just want to know that you're an Indian citizen, and that's about it. And then even a self-declaration that, you know, I am a homeschooler and I'm going to take up the responsibility of my child's education, that much is enough for them. Sometimes my parents don't even apply and don't even give an affidavit or the self-declaration. It's just on the Aadhaar card that the things are done. And also the beauty of NIS is you can take transfers from one center to another. So suppose if you are in a transferable job and you think that you are opting for NIS, then you can ask for a center change. So your exam center can be changed. Next thing that you have to be a little careful of with NIOS especially is they are very bad with phone calls. They are very bad with replying on the emails. So if you think you have a problem, your regional center is the one that you need to contact physically. You need to go and meet them personally. That's when you'll get some answers. Otherwise, you should be very closely talking to your center, which is your to-go person. Okay, so there's a coordinator that is appointed for your kid. You need to go and talk to them get all the updates from them, and keep an eye on your student portal site. So every child, once you register at NIOS, every child has been given a student password and login ID. And there, all the details, your PCP classes, your everything is taken care by the student portal itself. Otherwise, they are very bad at replying to emails. Now, having said about PCP, now PCP was introduced 2-3 years back. Now, those are called as contact classes or contact program, personal contact program. Now, personal contact program means whichever is your exam center, they call the child over there to do some amount of doubt solving or maybe practicals. Now, this is again a very dicey situation. Some of the centers take this very seriously and they call you for each and every PCP. Some of them do not call you any time in the year and they will just give you the marks. So there is a slight portion, 20% marks that are allotted for this, which they will give you as is because they have not called you. Okay. But if the school is calling you sincerely, I would recommend that you should go because your marks are based on that. Okay. That's the internal marking that we are talking about. Now, PCP happens. Now, this very few people know. So they always come back and say that, we enrolled this year and then, we've never got. But PCP happens only in the first year of registration. So, for example, you have enrolled your child at age 14 and you are thinking, okay, let him take it easy and I will give exam, after 2 years. And that's when if you want to go and attend PCP, remember they're not going to call you. Because for them, your child has registered and the first year that you're registering, your PCP classes are happening in that time, not any time that you want. So this is something that you need to bear in mind. So you might lose marks. Another component is your TMA. Now, your TME is your tutor marked assessments, which are like papers which are available on the website from day one of your registration. You just simply have to download them, do the study, mark the answers, write the answers, get it evaluated from your parents, tutors, help, whatever you're taking, and you get entire marks are yours. Okay. But there's a small component of a project work, which I would recommend that you all should do. So that's about your 10th or your 12th standard thing. Now, many people ask questions about practicals. Now, practical, again, if you're doing things like home science or you're doing any of your science subjects or mathematics, you have practicals for that. Now, there are lab manuals which are available on the website in the PDF format. Now, you are expected to copy the entire lab manual into your journals. And whenever you go for practice sessions, you are supposed to take down the observations. So say, for example, in physics, we have certain readings. So when you are going for your PCP, your journal needs to be ready so that whatever you'll do the experiments as a practice, you can immediately put in the readings or at least have a rough copy because readings are generally not available on Google. So, many children go to Google for the answers. So they don't have readings over there. So or the other option is that you might want to go to a private lab like Muktangan or something who are offering these lab sessions and you can do it with them or any other lab, or you can simply call for the entire kit from Amazon and do it yourselves. So there are multiple ways in which practical aspect can be tackled. So these are the couple of things that come up. Then coming to the subject selection. Now, according to new education policy, the NEP has actually dissolved the entire streaming system. Like, for example, at our time when we were younger, we had a typical commerce, arts, and a science kind of a stream in 11th and 12th. Now, with a new education policy launched, there is no bifurcation as such. Like, even if I'm doing like a science, a pure science, I'm taking a physics, chemistry, maths, I can still take a geography as an option. I can still take business studies as an option. So these open door policies are now implemented even in colleges, and in the years to come, in a year or two, we will see more implementation because NEP has been started implementing, but it's happening in parts. So they are taking one part and implementing that, seeing the thing, and then implementing the second. But we can be rest assured that this is going to be fully functional by the next academic session for sure. So this is one advantage, which also helps in our choice of subject selection. That now we will not be bound by, okay, now I have to do a math, or I have to do a physics, or I have to do a chemistry for getting into something. It's not going to be like that. So that is one advantage, which NIS actually had foreseen and already given children that option. So that was a very good thing. So that we can now exploit to the fullest. Okay, so that is one thing. Now coming to your exams, exams happen somewhere in the month of April, and there is another session that happens in the month of October, November. Then there is one session that happens, which is called as on-demand exams. Now, on-demand exams typically happen in the month of June to September. So say, for example, I have enrolled and I want to give the exam at my convenience. Whenever my child is ready, then we opt for on-demand exams. And that time you need to go and submit. So all your submission work, your assignments, your practicals, your PCP, everything is happening at your center. So your choice of center and your communication with your center are your key points if you want your process to be seamless. If you all do not do this, it's going to be really a very traumatizing and a very, very stressful situation, because they are having lakhs of students who sit for it. So your child is not the only one. So they will not contact you personally for anything. So since it's our kid, we need to take that responsibility. Okay, so these were the Indian options that we had available. And I'm specifically talking about Maharashtra because I believe most of our parents are from Pune or Mumbai. Okay, so this is one thing. Now we go to the foreign board options that we have. Now, OIC is a very new curriculum. This is the first year of OIC in India, and that's called as Oxford International Curriculum. Sandbox has been fortunate to implement this as a pilot batch. Last year, we implemented it as a pilot, and this year we are an affiliated center for OIC. Now, you all must be typically aware about Cambridge, which gives exams at 10th and 12th. Now, that is called as O levels, and it's called as AS or A levels. Now, what used to happen is, now Cambridge was allowing this only at grade 10 and grade 12. Now, suppose if a parent wanted to do like an international study, and they had checkpoint exams at grade 6 and grade 8, they were not able to do it as a private candidate. So one is you could do it if you had some contact with the school and you know the principal personally, or you're asking for a personal favor, then those things were possible. But otherwise, for a normal private candidate, it was not an option. So with OIC, what happens is, if you want these standardized examinations, okay, for any reason, say you want to go abroad and you want to show these mark sheets, or you want to switch back from homeschooling into a mainstream and you need these mark sheets, or for any reason, or just for your own, satisfaction you want it, then now OIC is coming up with two standardized tests. One is at the end of your primary, which is typically your grade 4, grade 5. And one they're coming up at the end of secondary, which is your grade 8. And after this, it goes to AQA. Now, AQA is called as the Assessment and Qualification Alliances, which is the main examination body of UK. So all your boards, your IB, your IGCSE, your OIC, all of these boards are coming under AQA. So if you go to UK, you will understand that AQA exams are called as GCSEs. And in India, because we are doing it, it's called as international GCSEs, because for them, we are foreigners, right? So that's the only difference. So if a child is doing an OIC curriculum today, then he can opt for an AQA exam, which is a GCSE exams that he can take externally as a private candidate. So along with Cambridge, now we have an option of doing direct GCSEs also. Both curriculums are exactly the same. There is no difference whatsoever in terms of whether Pearson is better or CIE is better or whether AQA is better. All are the same, whether you are going for any board. Okay. Now the same thing happens with IB as well. Now, IB is again coming under the bracket of AQA. So AQA typically has 4 branches. Like in India, how we have 3 branches in Indian education system. You have your state board, you have your CPSE, which is your central board, and you have your ICSE, right? Which is Indian Standard Certificate Examination. So like that, AQAK under, you have these different branches. One was Pearson Edexcel, which is very common. So if we have parents here from South, then we have very common Pearson colleges and schools that are there. In India, in this side of the town, we don't have many Pearson Edexcel schools, but we have a lot of CI schools. So CI is very common. Then your IB and your OIC now. IB does not allow private candidates. IB only wants regular students. So these are our options that we need to explore. Now, if we have to compare between an NIOS versus a CI, okay, why should somebody choose an NIOS and why should somebody choose a CI? Now, NIOS you should choose if you are pursuing your entire education end to end in India. Then that's a great option because you are not looking at any equivalences. The examination systems, typically all the paper patterns and the way of writing the answers, all is very same. So you don't find it very difficult to do the transition from from a school to a college to a college to a senior college. If you are planning to go abroad or do a part of your study abroad, then IGCSE definitely is your option, because then that will give you a new outlook to look at education system. Because in CI, the entire curriculum is very research based. It's very practical oriented. It's very application oriented. So there is no rote learning whatsoever. So a child cannot mug up the answers and just go. He will need to understand the concept first and then do it. So this is the broader classification. Now, if I go more into depth and, try and understand the subject selection, then yes, there is a very good subject choice in NIOS with a lot of emphasis on your traditional subjects, which contains folk art, which contains yoga, which contains Sanskritic, learning, basically, your regional languages. So many regional languages option is there in NIOS. When you are going to CI, there are again very broad and very beautiful subject options, and there are almost 35 odd subjects to choose from. Now coming to the most important part. Now, if you are wanting to give an exam as a private candidate through CI, that is IGCSE, you need to approach a school. That's a mandate. You cannot do it on your own. You have to go via a school. Now, CI also, if we are just comparing, CI also is a very, very expensive board. It's almost 10 times or 100 times more than what you would otherwise spend with an NIOS typically. Okay, so cost can also be a factor to influence your decision or choice of board. Now, when you go to the school, there are a lot of questions that you should actually ask the school what they are going to offer. Like, for example, if my child today is going as a private candidate to a school and tomorrow decides that 11th and 12th he's not going to do as a homeschooler and he wants to do it in a normal college, a mainstream college, then the college demands something which is called as a transcript. And some of the colleges also demand a consolidated mark sheet. Now, what do I mean by a consolidated mark sheet? For example, there are choice of splitting the subjects in both the boards, NIOS also, as well as your CIE also. Now, I can take a couple of subjects in the, say, February-March cycle, and I can take another in the month of October-November as well. Now, if I take my examinations in the same year, say, for example, my son is now giving exams, and say he has decided to give an exam in June 24 and say November 24 in the same year, if he's doing it, then it is easier for the school to give you a consolidated mark sheet. But today, if my son says, no, I want to give one paper in November and the next in 25 February, then it is difficult for the school to give you a consolidated mark sheet. In fact, they cannot give you a consolidated mark sheet because your year is changing. So you all need to plan backwards, which I always keep telling in all my sessions. You'll need to plan backwards and see what is it that you want. Would you need like a consolidated mark sheet? Yes. Then you plan your splitting in such a way that there are 3 cycles. It's not like a less option, there are 3 cycles and you can take all 3. So I can give like maybe 2 papers in February, March, 1 paper in May, June, and the remaining 2 papers in October, November, which is very much doable, right? So if we are looking at a consolidated mark sheet. This is my strong recommendation that please do this. Else, if you're okay with, having like 2 mark sheets, it's not a big deal, but some colleges can be very finicky and they can ask you that, why did you do this? And was the child not, able to do it? What was the reason? So if you're strong enough to answer them and reply, and they are convinced with your answers, then you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, now comes the next thing. Now, some of the colleges also uh, ask a lot of questions because private candidates is written on the mark sheet. So many educated people do not know about homeschooling as an option. Just because we know and we are doing it doesn't mean others know it. So they are very, you know, apprehensive about giving admissions to our children until they see our kids. So they might ask you questions. So don't worry. Just very confidently answer them. And once they meet our children, of course, they understand the difference. That's another thing. So yeah, so that is typically about the CIE and what you need to keep in mind when you're approaching schools. Also, another thing is you also would like to check with the school whether they are offering a particular subject that you have chosen. Like there are some subjects in CIE which are a strict no-no for private candidates because they have a component which is called as coursework. Now, coursework means that you have to do like a project, and that is usually a team project. So obviously our children cannot participate in that. So all the subjects that you see, so you have to open the syllabus. If you're choosing a subject in CI, you should first read the syllabus. And there is usually typically one section before you start the syllabus. Something is written like before you start something. So you should read that page first, because there it's clearly mentioned that this subject a private candidate can take or this subject a private candidate cannot take. So, your story stops there. Instead of you reading through the entire thing, I would suggest you read that page first. If it's not for you, don't read it. Simple. So art and design, I know as a matter of fact, is not there for private candidates. Global perspectives, which is a beautiful subject, is not there for private candidates. So like that, there are many subjects. Geography is out of bounds for us. So there are many more subjects like these, which have a huge component of coursework, which is not there for our children. Okay, so you need to check with the school before you start with your preparations for your child. Typically, for an NIOS or an IGCSE, you need 2 years of prep time. So, in your mind, it should be a 9th and a 10th, not a 10th. Because if you think you want to complete everything in a year, it is quite stressful for the child. NIOS, you can still manage. IGCSE is quite a struggle because it's quite in-depth. And there are three papers for each subject. Say, for example, I'm taking a physics. There are 3 papers for physics. One is your MCQ paper. One is your alternate to practical paper, because they don't have a practical component again for our children. So we have to go for alternate to practical. And then you have your theory paper. So if I'm taking like 3 sciences, my child is actually preparing for 9 exams in science alone. So that's quite a lot of work. Okay, because each one needs a different skill set, a different kind of a study that is required. So all these things you should bear in mind when you're looking at a CIE curriculum. Moving on, now, if you want to drop all these options and not do 10th and 12th, then you can go for AP exam straight away, which doesn't require 10th, which doesn't require 12th. You can straight away do advanced placement, but your India options are almost zero, because there are very few colleges. I have already researched, and I have found that there are typically around 7 to 8 colleges which do accept AP scores, but not all colleges. So again, backward study if you want to pursue your further in India with your AP exams, and are they going to be okay with your 10th and 12th? Foregoing 10th and 12th, I'm saying. So you're not doing your 10th, you're not doing your 12th, you're directly doing AP. Now, AP exams happen only once a year, and that is in the month of May. So there are no choice. So you have to prepare well in advance. Again, another thing, AP exams are taken for university admissions. So you can imagine the amount of study that is required. So you cannot expect like a 13-year-old to do an AP exam. It is possible, but it is very difficult. So you need to start your preparations well in advance, and then move to your AP. That is another thing. Now, if you're going to US specifically, then you need to take another exam, which is called as SATs, for getting your scores and everything. Now, this year from 23, SAT formats have changed, and SAT formats now are not subject specific. So initially, SATs used to be subject specific. Now it is not subject specific. So whether you are an art student or math student, whatever, you will still have to take like an English and maths compulsory. So that is the change that has come up. Before it was not like this. Before each subject had their own SATs that they used to take. But now one SAT is enough. And your to-go place is College Board if you want to find more information about this. So yeah, that is typically what I had to kind of share with you all. Now I can take some questions if there are any.
Thanks, Sulbha. I can ask some of the questions that we had. And if any more people have questions, they can like put in the chat and I can coordinate that. So let me just share my screen again. So yeah, so this is one of the questions that was asked for us. Is there any option today that somebody might lose out on if they give exams as a private candidate, like specifically engineering, medical, law, etc.?
Right. No. That's not a problem.
And the IGCSE scores also valid through all the colleges in India. What has been your experience in that?
Yes, they have been valid. Only the problem comes, like say, for example, if you're doing engineering from a private institute, it's not an issue. But if you want like an admission in a COEP, which is a government college, then there is a huge problem because your government, Indian government, is not giving an equivalent certificate, which is by the AIU. So that can become challenging. But however, our children are okay to write the entrances and everything and get admission.
We already covered this with the AP and SAT exams. So the next question is, yeah, so you mentioned that there's no specific stream anyways, but like say, for example, I want to do engineering, so I just have to make sure I do a PCM
correct
subjects. Yes.
PCM subject. Like nowadays, that is also going to go eventually. Like see, for example, in today's time, NEET exam that happens has a physics, chemistry and a bio. Okay, bio having the larger weightage. But now the new education policy implementation, if it happens, then they are seeing that physics should not be made mandate for bio students for NEET. Because as such, your medical students are not using any part of physics, right? Except for the appliances that they are the equipments that they're using, right? So they are now suggesting that physics should be completely gone from the NEET exams. So we'll have to watch what happens, how this shapes up. But yeah, as of today, typically, if you're taking a medical, you should have your PCB group open. And if you're taking like an engineering, you should do like a PCM at least.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Like as a private candidate, have you experienced people having issues in foreign universities or
not at all?
Not at all. Even NIOS is.
Even NIOS is valid across, but only thing is certain countries abroad are not recognizing NIOS. Okay, so again, that's a part of our research when we are applying for the universities and colleges. We need to check which one is there. Yeah.
Any that come top of your mind, like which don't accept?
So I know, as a matter of fact, Canada universities, because for my son only I had researched and I had also dropped them an email just out of curiosity that if he does NIOS tomorrow. So they had sent a positive reply that yes, we recognize this and we know that it's an open schooling. So I know, as a matter of fact, in writing I have that Canada does approve, but I will find out about which ones don't. That's a good question to check.
So yeah, you're saying that just if once you know which university you would like to apply to, just send them an email and check, that
exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you have any suggestions for how to do labs as a private candidate?
Yeah, as I said that, there are these Muktangan type labs which are available. So you can either go for that or you can do it at home. I strongly recommend that You do it at home because, then it becomes more like a, like they can repeat it again and again as a practice also. So if you have, see, it's like a one-time investment of buying these stuff, right? And if you have it, then, you can repeat it. But if you're like even going to a separate lab, like say you don't want to buy and you're going to a separate lab, that's also good enough. Yeah.
You already mentioned this. So
Yes.
typically like 2 years you need
2
to give.
years, yeah, in your mind, whenever you are giving an exam, 2 years before that, you should start all your research work and talking to schools and all of that.
Right. And now what you're saying is 14, they allow you 14 plus.
14, yeah, 14, because till you're not 14, they don't even let you register.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And typically people are giving by the time they're 10th grade, the 16, 15, 16.
15,
onwards,
16, yes.
Yeah, this is a question a lot of people ask, what languages? So what is like, NIOS just has one language compulsory, right? Like English.
Yes.
And what about other boards that you have seen? Like
so, for example, if you're going for Maharashtra open schooling, as I said, they do have other languages as well. They have 2 languages, I think, typically. Either there's a choice between Hindi or Marathi. So you have 2 languages as a mandate. And some of the CBSE colleges also demand a Hindi in 10th. So that is again a kind of research that you might want to do if you are going to a CBSE specifically. Other colleges are not really asking for it, but yeah, CBSE does ask sometimes.
got it. And what about foreign boards like the IGCSE and all? They have no
only
second
English.
language. Okay. Is there an upper age limit for any of these exams?
No.
You can give it as. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, CIE has a very nice advantage. Okay. So say, for example, the child is above 20 and has not given a 10th or a 12th, whatever, no exams as such, then they can directly take A levels and AS levels. They don't need to do O levels at all.
Right.
But then you should be about 20.
20. So that is their limit, 20.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one good thing. I mean.
Yep. That makes sense. One of the questions you already shared, like thing about NIOS and age levels, but is there anything else that parents should be aware of that? For example,
like see, like at least 1 year gap between NIOS 10th and 12th. Yes, in fact, it's not 1 year, it's 2 years. Like for example, say for example, I've given my exam now in April 23. Okay, then my last exam of 12th should happen in 25.
Okay.
Okay, but if I'm taking like a split examination cycle, so I can do 2 papers in 24. That's okay.
Right.
But your last mark sheet, you wouldn't get till 25. That's a mandate.
Okay. So if I'm doing my 10th and 12th both as split papers, does the time difference start on the first paper or the last paper? So like
First paper.
First paper. Okay. Got it.
In fact, it's not even papers. It's the time of registration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And what is the recommended schedule do you see? Like for usually most people splitting exams or most people giving it together?
Yeah. See, my only thing to all the parents is, if we have this option, why not use it? No?
Right.
I mean, okay, for those who didn't have this option, but now we are getting this option. So let's use this option. No? That's my thing. I think there are some. Oh, Anagha mentioned that her son gave geography as a private candidate. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So Anagha, he took it without the coursework, is it?
Yeah, he took it without the coursework.
Ah, nice.
He had to answer one extra paper for that.
Yes. So which school?
We went to Goa to answer from European School of Goa.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was thinking, because Pune, I asked a couple of people and they said no. So I was wondering which school in Pune is.
Yeah, even we had that experience. For last minute, we had to shift to Goa.
Yes. Yeah. That's what.
That's a pretty cool tip. So thank you for sharing, Anaka. Like, you can always try in Goa or some other like board.
Yeah. Okay,
Uh,
just on this note, sorry, Saurabh. There is one school in Bombay called Rustamji who allows you to give any paper. Okay, so you all can also check with them. Now DLRC is also offering these kind of things. So you all might want to check with DLRC as well. And then right now for my kid, we went to Boston, who is also very open, but Boston is very expensive. Very,
Boston
very
is a school in Pune, like, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is the thing. But they are okay with any subject as long as you're not taking the coursework. Like, Anaka mentioned, there's an extra paper that they have to write, but that's fine, as long as they get the subject of their choice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Priti, but before this, I just want to touch a little bit about, you mentioned OIC. So that is like your center is offering OIC. So students can register at your center and then give the OIC exams, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And they are at par with like the CIE and like IGCSE that we are seeing
Absolutely.
already. So
Yes,
there's no difference. Is
Yeah.
there any difference in the examinations per se? Like,
Yeah, one major difference is that they have online exams.
OIC is online.
Yes. So that's a very big advantage, which I feel because today's kids really need that kind of a change, So I was very happy with that. And second thing is also they have made the language very, very easy. Like, for example, if you're typically studying an IGCSE curriculum, you must have observed that the language is so difficult that maybe the child knows the concept, but doesn't understand the question because of the language issue. So they have made the syllabus in such a way that like we Indians speak English as a second language typically, right? So they will also be able to answer it very easily. So that's their motive. So yeah, the language is really very easy to understand and comprehend. So that's
Nice.
another advantage. Yeah.
So OIC is like at your center online or is it from home
Yeah.
online? It's
At
your
my
center.
at my center. So what we do, like this was the first time we tried it, and what we did is we had booked one cyber cafe wherein we had taken all our children and then we had got the code done.
Nice.
But
And-
anyway, these are proctored exams. So even if the child, like some of our kids are not in Pune, right? They are abroad and they're out. So they took exams from their home. So that was a proctored exam, so it was possible.
Okay, but who's proctoring the exams? Is it the parents or is it?
No, they are doing it from their end. So they have a system inbuilt. Like even if the child moves or takes more time or switches between tabs, the exam stops there.
Oh, okay.
And they
Interesting.
can't go back to the exam.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's proctored from the webcam and stuff. So are
Yes,
these also
yes.
on demand or is it again like cyclical?
No. That is like a standardized test at their
Okay.
time.
Okay, got it. But that's pretty cool, like nonetheless. So it's a very good option. Yeah.
It's a very good option. Yeah.
Priti asked, which countries are open for admissions after AP? Is it only the US?
No. Most of the foreign universities are accepting it.
Okay.
Most of them.
Anaga has a question about effect of NEP and IGCSE.
It's not going to change at all because IGCSE is a foreign board and NEP is National Education Policy, which is actually limited to India. So it wouldn't have any effect on this.
Aditya has asked, is there a different college admission process for alternative homeschooling students as compared to children from traditional schools?
Not really. Like, for example, if you have your mark sheets, as I said, if you have your mark sheets, you have your transcripts and all the docs that they require, you are treated like any other student. However, what they also do at that point is every board there is a quota when we take admissions, right? So they have a quota. So for example, there is a 5% quota for NIS students. So our CIE children also have that quota with them, right? So they do get admitted anyway. Because if it was to be done only on marks basis, then only CBSE students would have got marks because only they get it 99 and 100 also, sometimes. But these other children don't get, they get it in grades.
Right.
So that would have been like unfair on them. So that's why each school is treated like separately according to their board.
Okay. That's good. Pawan is asking, what was your point about COEP? You mentioned that they don't accept IGCSE scores or like.
No, they don't.
Okay.
As a private candidate, if you're doing, then they want an equivalent certificate.
Okay. And the IGCSE schools will not give you an equivalent certificate if you are doing it as a private candidate. They give it for their own
Yes.
students.
They give it
Yes.
for their own students, but sort of I recently found out when I was, researching, in fact, talking to schools about my kid now. So what they've told me, like this is the offer that they've given me, that if I don't want that private candidature on my son's name, then I can pay a little extra and, basically buy it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's another option. I mean, if we are very sure that we want it only, then might as well pay a little extra and do it. So that's another.
Aditya has another question about students without transcripts, students applying without portfolios and work experience. Like how does that?
So if you're, so Aditya, you're taking admission in a college, they wouldn't really be interested in your portfolios. But yeah, if you're going and opening yourself in a job market, then yes, these work experiences and portfolios will play a very important role, but not for college admission typically.
So this is a follow-up question to the question about a different college admission process for children from alternative schools and home schools. This is a follow-up
Right.
to that.
Right.
So even
Yeah,
for them, you're
so
saying there isn't a different process.
correct. So there's no different process. Like, see, for example, every college needs a certain set of documents, like a paper trail is what we call it. So that is needed. So if you have that, you get admission. If you don't have that, you don't. Because if I have to explain a little further, like, what happens is when our child takes admission in school for the first time, a unique identification number is created. Okay, UNDP, that's what is called. So now that is very specific till the end of your learning journey. So now suppose we are homeschoolers. Now, obviously that has not been generated for us, right? So somebody needs to generate it for us. So that is why these transcripts and all come into play. Am I making sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
that is why we need those documents, because we need somebody to tell that, okay, this is your number, which I can use for further studies as well. Huh? So that's why.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Sulbha. Like, I don't think we have any more questions. But
Yeah.
if anybody wants to get in touch with you, sandboxpune.in is the website that they can like go. I will also mention it. We'll be uploading this on YouTube, like it's recorded. So we'll upload it and share the links there as well. And the link to the slideshow also we can share that so we can get in touch. Okay, then thank you so much. It was really very educational and answered a lot of questions for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.